Welcome, everyone. We meet again in another episode. And this time, it's a story that, although wrapped in lights, laughter, and carols, is truly one of the great emotional epics of modern cinema. A story that blends comedy, magic, adventure, and an inner journey so deep that very few Christmas films have ever matched it. Today, we step into the animated universe of The Grinch, the Illumination version from 2018. A visually dazzling reimagining of a character we all think we know, but whom very few have truly understood. From the very first moment, the film throws us into a world that vibrates with its own heartbeat. Whoville, a place where the streets shine like constellations, where music floats through the air as if it were magic, and where Christmas is not just a holiday, it is the pulsing heart of everything. A world so filled with light that even a joyful soul could feel overwhelmed. And in the middle of that explosion of color and celebration, there he appears. A green, furry, sarcastic being, a shadow walking among lights, an outsider in a world that never felt like his. A heart hidden beneath layer after layer of irony. Because the Grinch is not simply a villain, he is not a monster. He is not the enemy of Christmas. He is someone who learned to step away from the world to avoid being hurt again. Someone who turned pain into sarcasm and loneliness into routine. And yet, this animated version reminds us that even the coldest hearts beat with force when someone truly sees them. The bright innocence of Cindy Lou, the silent loyalty of Max, and the unbreakable spirit of all of Whoville come together to show us that even those who hide behind a mountain of excuses can one day find a place where they finally feel at home. This journey, our journey, will take us from the coldest cave of Mount Crumpet to the warmest instant of Christmas. We will encounter humor, chaos, tenderness, past wounds, silences that speak louder than words, and moments where animation becomes pure emotion. Get ready, because this is not just the story of a character who hates Christmas. It is the story of a heart that, after so long, dares to open itself again. Today, you and I are going to step inside the mind, the humor, the sadness, and the transformation of the Grinch like never before. Before we begin, remember that in the description, you'll find a completely free PDF to practice the English you'll learn throughout this episode. There is something almost mythological about the Grinch, something that lives beyond the pages of Dr. Seuss's book, beyond the television special, beyond the movie adaptations, and even beyond Christmas itself. The Grinch has become a symbol, a mirror, a character in whom people recognize hidden parts of themselves. And perhaps that is why this story returns year after year, generation after generation. There is a universal truth inside him, that sometimes people withdraw not because they despise joy, but because they fear not belonging to it. And that fear, wrapped in humor, wrapped in sarcasm, wrapped in prickly green fur, resonates with millions. When Illumination approached this project, they knew they weren't just bringing a familiar character back to the screen. They were bringing back a feeling, a memory, a tradition. Families around the world treat the Grinch as part of their holiday rituals. Some read the book. Some watch the classic special. Others share the Jim Carrey film. Each version adds a new layer to the myth. This animated Grinch had to honor all those memories while still saying something new, something honest. Something that speaks to a generation longing for connection in a fast, noisy, overwhelming world. A generation that, like the Grinch, sometimes feels surrounded by celebration, yet strangely distant from it. So the filmmakers asked themselves a powerful question. What makes the Grinch feel real? Not as a creature, not as a cartoon, but as a person. And to answer it, they didn't begin with comedy or spectacle. They began with emotion, with empathy, with the quiet idea that behind every cold exterior lies a story. Behind every sarcastic remark lies a heart protecting itself. What most people don't know is that the creation of this animated version of the Grinch began years before the film reached theaters. Illumination set a clear intention to recover the emotional core of Dr. Seuss's character, but reinterpret it with modern animation. They didn't want to just adapt the book or copy the Jim Carrey version. They wanted a new interpretation, faithful to Seuss, but deeper, richer, more human. One of the first decisions was revolutionary. The Grinch would not be treated as a villain. From day one, the director repeated a guiding phrase. The Grinch is hurt, not evil. That idea shaped everything. His posture, his movements, his breathing, his facial expressions. Animators studied shy people, socially anxious people, people who had experienced emotional isolation. They wanted to understand how vulnerability hides beneath sarcasm, how pain becomes awkwardness, how loneliness shapes the body. His face was the hardest element to create. 8 months of trials, experiments, redesigns. Some versions looked too angry, others too childish, others too similar to previous adaptations. They searched for something expressive, but subtle, recognizable, but emotionally honest. His eyes became the key. Large enough to express emotion, flexible enough to reveal nuance, full of tiny movements that speak louder than dialogue. Then came the greatest technical challenge, his fur. Millions of digital strands, each reacting to gravity, temperature, and light. The fur needed to behave like real fur, soft, heavy, expressive. Some shots took computers hours to render just a few seconds of motion. But the result makes the Grinch feel almost physical, tactile, alive. His voice required the same care. Benedict Cumberbatch's natural voice was too elegant, too smooth, too confident. So he recorded 2 full performances, one British, one American. The American voice fit perfectly awkward, vulnerable, unpredictable, just like the character. Meanwhile, Whoville was being created as his opposite, a visual hug, a world where nothing has sharp edges, a world designed to radiate warmth, a place built to contrast his solitude. No straight lines exist in Whoville. Everything is curved, rounded, soft. Even shadows glow warmly. Max, the most beloved character among animators, brought pure heart to the story. His movements were inspired by rescued dogs. Faithful, gentle, unconditional. Max doesn't judge, doesn't complain. He just loves, quietly and completely. Many animators said Max was the real protagonist. Music required a delicate balance, playful but emotional, mischievous but not chaotic, Christmas-like but not cliché. Deep bass lines for the Grinch's emotional weight, light strings for Whoville's joy, silences for his loneliness. The score shifts subtly with his feelings, matching his inner world. The film hides countless references to Dr. Seuss's art. Wavy lines, impossible shapes, quirky patterns, all honoring the original legacy. Lighting tells its own story. Whoville glows with warmth. Mount Crumpet stays cold, but never evil, because the Grinch is not darkness. He is simply alone. Animating his emotions required micro-gestures, hesitations, eye movements, breathing patterns, tiny details called soul breaths by the animation team. Whoville citizens were each designed individually, giving the town a living, breathing sense of community. Cindy Lou embodies sincerity. Not unrealistic innocence, but powerful empathy. The kind that begins to melt the walls around the Grinch's heart. Symbolism surrounds him. Metal and cold tones at first, warmer colors as he transforms. Light touching his fur differently as hope enters his world. All softly, subtly, beautifully. Sound design gives authenticity. Real snow crunch, real mechanical hums, real breaths, each recorded carefully. Each sound chosen to feel almost tactile, as if the world were not animated, but tangible, as if you could step into the frame and feel the softness of the snow, the warmth of the lights, or the quiet loneliness of his cave. Snow had multiple physical simulations. Packed snow, melting snow, falling snow, drifting snow, each with unique behaviors. The team wanted snow to be a character too, a storyteller, a presence that follows the Grinch everywhere he goes. Camera movement reveals his psychological state, warm, close arcs in Whoville, wide, distant framing in the cave, lingering shots when he isolates himself, tighter shots when emotion pulls him inward. Every angle chosen not for beauty, but for truth. His exaggerated movements echo physical comedy, awkward, emotional, expressive, inspired by classic silent films. Performers who communicated entire worlds without speaking. The animators watched Chaplin, Keaton, Rowan Atkinson, studying how comedy comes from vulnerability, from clumsiness, from humanity. Even his green color tells a story. Cooler, sharper shades at first, slowly warming as his world begins to shift. Subtle changes in saturation, hints of softness in the highlights. Visual storytelling woven into the very fibers of his fur. Eye animation was among the most advanced tasks. Hundreds of micro-movements expressing hesitation, fear, tenderness. Eyes widening, narrowing, flickering with thought, revealing everything he refuses to say out loud. His cave reflects his past, not evil, not threatening, just lonely. Filled with inventions meant to distract, meant to control, meant to keep him busy so he doesn't have to feel. Every object designed with intention, A world built by someone who thinks too much and feels even more. Anxiety appears in his behavior. Rapid movements, darting eyes, tight shoulders, breathing that changes with emotion. His body language tells the story of someone who once hoped and then decided it was safer not to. Humor reveals his humanity, his contradictions, his clumsy, hesitant heart. We laugh, not because he is mean, but because he is human. Because beneath his grumpiness is someone trying to protect a heart that feels everything too deeply. His transformation is slow, gentle, made of tiny moments, small gestures of kindness, quiet recognitions, unexpected warmth, little sparks inside a heart that has been in the dark too long. Whoville becomes a character too, warm, loud, loving. A chorus of joy changing him, even when he fights it. A world that welcomes him before he even realizes he wants to be welcomed. This is the magic of animation. Every color, every gesture, every silence tells a story. A story of loneliness, healing, connection. A story far beyond Christmas. The Grinch is not about hating a holiday. It is about longing. Longing for warmth. Longing for belonging. Longing for courage. Longing for the strength to let others in. It respects the original, but expands it, deepens it, enriches it, turning an iconic tale into a human portrait. Behind every grumpy exterior, there is someone who once hoped too deeply, someone who once cared too much, someone who learned to hide instead of hurt. And as the film moves toward its emotional peak, we witness a transformation not of behavior, but of perspective, not of personality, but of openness. It shows how healing does not need to be dramatic. It can be slow, quiet, gentle. It can happen in moments so small you barely notice them. Until, suddenly, the world looks different. This is why the story resonates so deeply. It whispers a truth many feel but rarely say, that loneliness can exist even in the brightest places. That healing begins with a single gesture. That connection often grows in silence, and that compassion, given or received, can change a life. The Grinch is a reminder that those who push others away the most are often the ones who need someone to stay. Not with force, not with pressure, but with presence. The artistry behind the animation reflects this emotional depth. Thousands of artists, designers, writers, programmers, musicians, all working together to bring a wounded heart to life. Every frame crafted with intention. Every color chosen with care. Every movement refined until it felt honest. Not exaggerated, not theatrical, but human. Even the smallest details matter. The way light reflects in his eyes. The softness of Max's fur. The warm glow of Whoville's lanterns. The snowflakes drifting in the breeze. All working together to create a world that feels alive. A world that breathes. A world that speaks to the heart. This animated version stands apart because it embraces emotional realism, wrapped in comedy, wrapped in color, wrapped in whimsy, a perfect blend of imagination and truth. Dr. Seuss's legacy lives in every frame, not through copying, but through honoring the essence of the original, the compassion, the creativity, the belief that stories can shape the way we see the world. And as we move through the final moments of the film, the Grinch's change feels earned, gentle, soft, human. Not the redemption of a villain, but the opening of a heart that was never broken, only guarded. This story teaches us something quietly powerful, that connection does not require perfection, that joy does not demand constant happiness, that belonging is not about fitting in, but about allowing ourselves to be seen. The Grinch's journey is our journey, a reminder that healing is possible, that warmth can return, that hope can be rediscovered, even after years of hiding. And so, as we reach the end of this journey, this exploration of the art, the secrets, the emotion, the humanity behind the Grinch, one truth rises above all. Stories change us not because of their special effects, not because of their jokes, but because they teach us to see others and ourselves with gentleness, with compassion, with courage. And if this journey inspires you, moves you, or simply brings you joy, I invite you to subscribe, leave a like, and tell me in the comments which movie you'd like to explore next. Because you are part of this community. And together, we keep learning, dreaming, and growing.